Right now, at this exact moment, your muscles are disappearing. Not because you are lazy, not because you have stopped exercising, but because after the age of 30, your body begins a process that most doctors never mention and most people never see coming until it is already years advanced. It's called sarcopenia. And by the time you feel it, you have already lost tissue that took decades to build. Sarcopenia literally means poverty of flesh. It is the clinical term of the progressive loss of skeletal muscle mass, strength, and function. And it does not begin at 60. It begins at 30. Most studies show that peak muscle mass occurs between ages of 20 and 35. After that, the decline begins. So at first, easy to miss. By age 30 to 50, the rate of loss accelerates. After 60, it becomes measurable and dangerous. Without resistance training, you are losing between 3 and 8% of your muscle mass per decade after age 30. Some individuals lose up to 1 to 2% per year after the age of 50. That is not a cosmetic statistic. That is a metabolic trajectory. And here is what the medical establishment really communicates clearly. Muscle is not cosmetic tissue. Muscle is your largest longevity organ. It governs your glucose metabolism, which means it is your primary defense against insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. It determines your resting metabolic rate, which means less muscle equals slower metabolism, more fat accumulation, reduced energy. It protects your joints, absorbs mechanical load, and prevents the fall that becomes statistically dangerous after the age of 65. And here is one that more functional, almost nobody talks about. Muscle is your biological reserve. In times of serious illness, surgery, cancer, hospitalization, your body draws on muscle tissue for energy and immune function. People with low muscle mass have significantly worse clinical outcomes, high complications, longer recovery, greater mortality. This is survival architecture. Let me give you one number. A 2022 meta-analysis published in the Journal of Caucasia, Sarcopenia and Muscle found that individuals with sarcopenia have a 34% higher risk of all-cause mortality, not higher risk of frailty, not higher risk of feeling weak, higher risk of dying from everything. From cardiovascular disease, from cancer, from post-surgical complications. Your muscle mass is a direct predictor of how long you live and how well you live while you are living it. Now, let us look at the biology. Why does sarcopenia accelerate? 3 primary mechanisms. First, hormonal decline. After 35 in men, testosterone begins a slow, continuous decrease. In women approaching perimenopause, typically between 40 and 50, estrogen begins to fall. Estrogen is not only a reproductive hormone, it is an anabolic signal. It directly protects muscle protein from breakdown. Its decline removes a biological brake on muscle loss. Second, anabolic resistance. Even when you consume adequate protein, the aging muscle becomes progressively less responsive to that protein stimulus. The key signaling pathway mTOR activation becomes blunted. This is why older adults need more protein, not less, to achieve the same muscle protein synthesis response as a younger person. The same meal produces a smaller anabolic signal in a 55 years old body than in a 25 years old body. Third, chronic low-grade inflammation. Researchers call it inflammaging. It is a background inflammatory state that accumulates from poor sleep, chronic stress, gut dysbiosis, and processed dietary patterns. The inflammation directly inhibits muscle repair. It keeps the body in a catabolic state, breaking down tissue faster than it can rebuild it. If you are living with unmanaged stress, disrupted sleep, or a compromised gut microbiome, your body is working against your muscle every single day. In a moment, I'm going to give you a specific evidence-based protocol, not general advice, a clinical framework you can begin implementing this week. But first, I want to address the real reason most people who watch a video about sarcopenia today will not reverse it. And it's not the protocol. It is something deeper. Some of you will read every recommendation I'm about to give and still not begin. Not because you lack information, not because you lack discipline, but because resistance training does not match the identity most adults in midlife have built for themselves. There is a deeper embedded cultural script that says strength training is for athletes, for young people, for aesthetics only. But for professionals managing demanding careers and family responsibilities at 45, and so the body returns to that feels familiar. Walking, yoga, light cardio, and all of which are valuable, but none of which are sufficient to reverse sarcopenia. Because sarcopenia requires a specific mechanical signal, and that signal is progressive resistance load. Your neuromuscular system needs to experience increasing deliberate challenge to upregulate muscle protein synthesis. Without that signal, the body has no biological reason to build. This intervention is not only physiological, it is cognitive. You need to reclassify resistance training not as punishment, not as vanity, but as preventative medicine. Based on current evidence, here is what the research supports. Resistance training, a minimum of 2 to 3 sessions per week, targeting all major muscle groups. Progressive overload is non-negotiable. This means deliberately increasing load, volume, or tempo over time. The American College of Sports Medicine recommendations 8 to 12 repetitions per set for hypertrophy at 65 to 80% of your own 1 repetition maximum. If you are new to resistance training, begin with body weight and controlled tempo. The stimulus matters more than equipment. Protein intake. Current consensus for adults over 40 is 1.2 to 1.6 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. Distribute this across meals. Each meal should ideally contain 30 to 40 grams of high-quality protein to adequately stimulate muscle protein synthesis. Do not concentrate your protein in one sitting. The anabolic window does not work that way. Leucine. This essential amino acid is the primary trigger for mTOR activation. Animal proteins, eggs, fish, red meat are naturally leucine rich. If you follow a plant-based diet, leucine supplementation is evidence-supported and worth considering. Creatine monohydrate, 3 to 5 grams daily. This is one of more rigorously studied supplements for muscle preservation in older adults. Multiple randomized controlled trials confirm meaningful benefits to muscle strength and mass in adults over 50. Sleep and recovery. Your muscles are not built in the gym. They are built during recovery, specifically during slow wave sleep, when growth hormone is primarily released. Fever that 6 to 7 hours per night measurably impairs muscle protein synthesis. If you are compromising on sleep, you are compromising on every other intervention in this protocol. And inflammation management address gut health, chronic stress, and dietary quality, not as separate concerns, but as unified biological system. Every unit of systemic inflammation you reduce is a unit of muscle rebuilding capacity you restore. Before I close, I want you to do something for me. Please place one hand on your forearm. Press gently on the muscle belly, the tissue between your wrist and your elbow. Now ask yourself, honestly, when did you last deliberately load this tissue under progressive resistance? This is not a rhetorical. This is a diagnostic. Your answer tells you everything about where you currently are in this process. Sarcopenia is not inevitable. It's not something that simply happens to you. It is a condition that begins quietly, decades before you feel it, and it can be interrupted and reversed at any age with the right protocol. But here is what you need to understand. The window to act is not at 65. The window is now. Every year of inaction is metabolic architecture you will need to rebuild later at a higher cost and with a slower return. Not because you lack willpower, because biology does not wait. Your body is architecture and you are the architect. If this lecture was useful to you, share it with someone in your life who is in their 40s or 50s, even 60s, and does not yet know this word, sarcopenia. They need to know. We will continue this conversation in the next lecture. See you in my next lecture.